Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Gina Sudan with the Wyoming County Chamber of Commerce. Today is our Friday follow-up. So this week we heard from Glenn Leyu from KKB about taxes and accounting and the credits that we can take for bringing our employees back to work. And then we heard from Matthew Lyons, and we had a great crowd on Wednesday to talk about disinfecting your workspace and coming back to work safely and making sure that you're taking all the proper precautions to protect yourself, your employees, and your customers. So this morning, what I would like to do is, you all are muted. I must have a setting set up that mutes everyone when they come in. If you have a question, please go ahead and unmute yourself. That is down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. I do have some questions prepared for Matt that came in during the chat that we weren't able to get to on Wednesday. So I'll start with those questions, but if you have questions for Glenn, you want to formulate those and get them ready to ask, we'll take those in just a few minutes here. So Matt, probably the number one question that I've received since we talked on Wednesday is, where can we find cleaning products? Masks and gloves and Lysol and cleaning products that we're going to need to get ready to go back to work.
Sure, I'm a lot also. I would recommend looking at your local hardware store. They tend to be a little less busy than your big box stores and things, which have a lot of that stuff flying off the shelves. I've had no problem finding disinfectants and masks and gloves and things at local hardware stores at all. So that should help a lot. Great.
And then that's good to know, because I think with the masks, the masks and the gloves, everyone's seeing the national shortage, right? So again, we're not looking for N95 masks. We're looking for the masks that are being made locally by a lot of sewers right now, and those are fine for everyday wear.
Yes, yeah, the cloth masks will provide adequate protection for what we're looking for here. And they're available all over. That's not too much of an issue. As far as nationally, our medical care providers and government are purchasing from the large retailers as well. So if it's hitting, as an example, Walmart's inventory, it's being bought before it's making it to any of the stores in our area. So local retailers will be a better chance of finding that.
Good to know. Also, a question that came up after your call was, people are concerned. We mentioned Clorox a couple times on the call, that's a great cleaner. But when you're in a confined space, Clorox can have an overwhelming smell. Many disinfectants do. So what do you do about the fumes from disinfectants?
Well, there's a few different things that you can do to alleviate that. First and foremost, anytime you're applying a disinfectant to a large area where you're going to have more of a chance of filling the space with an odor or with any sort of fumes or off-gassing, you would want to do that in a room that's going to be empty. So you're not going to do that around customers or around other staff or things of that nature. The maintenance disinfection that you may be doing between customers or something of that nature, those should be relatively small surfaces. Your credit card terminal, maybe your counter. So that shouldn't be too much of a concern because those things should dry pretty quickly, and you shouldn't be using that much disinfectant. The biggest thing that I see is the potential for the overuse of product. You don't want a surface that's sopping wet and is going to take a long time to dry. You just want to get good coverage to make sure that you're killing anything that might be on that surface.
Okay, great. And then one thing I'm seeing a lot of right now is the shields, right? So at the grocery store, they've put up a shield between you and your customer. Do you recommend those shields for anyone who might have customers coming in and out of their door, for like the receptionist? Is that
If that's an option for your space, it's a great idea. It's an added layer of protection. Um, I see a lot of, I mean, my local convenience store put one up as well. You know, it's certainly advisable if you can do so.
And then the question here, does insurance cover the cost of disinfection? And we do have some insurance agents on the line. If you're not comfortable answering that question or you don't know, we do have some agents that may be able to help.
Yeah, they may be able to answer this more specifically than I can. My answer has been ask your insurance agent because every policy is going to be different, and there may very well be some coverage available to you. There may not be. I've seen some cases where the guidance that the insured has gotten is that there may be, but I've seen others where there wouldn't be. So it all depends.
Do any of our insurance agents want to chime in on that?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm going to say no. There's no coverage for that. If the state or federal government starts to overturn some of this business interruption coverage, then I would say that it'll go hand in hand with that, kind of like debris removal, like in a claim of a fire claim or something. I would think if that, if those laws or whatever, the exclusion gets overturned on these policies and all of a sudden business interruption is covered, I would think that that would be covered as part of it, the disinfecting part.
Okay.
But for now, no.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. Looks like we have some questions coming in. Just some resources. So it looks like we have some good resources coming in there to the chat. How about questions? Does anyone have questions? You can either type them into the chat, send them directly to me, or send them to everyone. You could also just unmute your phone, which is down at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You could unmute yourself and certainly ask any of those questions you may have for Glenn or Matt at this time.
Gina, I have a comment.
Sure.
I'm under the impression, talking with some of our chemical groups that I'm involved in, that some of the insurance companies are covering a $60 expense during servicing of their car to treat it against coronavirus. So I've heard that from some car dealers, as well as some repair groups. Part of the problem is they're not necessarily using the right chemicals and right equipment, because some of the companies are coming into play that aren't necessarily, like Matthew said, fully equipped to handle this. They're just taking advantage of the marketplace. Some of the conversations about masks too, I've been involved with the American Hospital Association on a regular basis, and the mask situation is still dramatic. So anything that we can use that's not N95s is really important. There's hospitals going through millions of these per month, and they're trying to reuse them. There's still shortages. And the government's starting to get involved where they're putting people in jail because they're gouging the market of selling a mask that would ordinarily sell for in the $1.20, $30 range up to $6, $7, $8 for millions at a time. So it's really becoming a problem. The hospitals are getting as many as 500 inquiries a day to sell them product, and about 5% of those are worth talking to. and very few turn out to be something legitimate. So it's a drastic problem on a national basis. But I would caution as far as people mixing their own Clorox with water. There have been cases in our healthcare groups where they're using too much Clorox and not a proper filtration on their masks, and it's causing some additional lung damage. I also wanted to ask Matthew if he is doing any electrostatic treatment of any facilities or office space to help get in areas that aren't necessarily accessible or appropriate for hand cleaning.
Well, an electric static sprayer is an option. It essentially allows you to aerosolize a disinfectant product, but there's other fogging solutions that also provide a similar effect. We do offer fogging when that is necessary or reasonable to address whether you're dealing with areas that may be of difficult access, which is uncommon in this particular situation, because if it's an area that is of difficult access, it's likely also going to not be contaminated to the degree that you would have so much of a concern. So really the only thing that would be similar to that would be like maybe ductwork or something of that nature if you have like a recirculation system. For the most part, we can do that if it's necessary, yes.
Great.
Yeah, some of the areas we're seeing problems, especially this time of year, would be blinds when people are going to areas where they're opening windows to get fresh air in, and they're not treating their blinds or honeycomb blinds or, you know, all surfaces of the blinds. So as they're picking them up or raising them, they could be touching contaminated areas. And
Sure, that's a good point. And blinds can be treated similarly. You'd want to ensure that you have pretty good coverage of a disinfectant with something of that nature, just because they have so many surfaces.
Certainly. We do have another question here coming in from Matt, and it's regarding short-term rental homes. So in our area, we have a few short-term rental homes where people might come in and stay for a week or so and then go. The question is really pertaining to kitchens and the linens. The kitchen equipment and linens is the main concern. How do you best handle cleaning of those items?
Well, the want to clean similar to how they always have. You're going to launder those. You're going to want to do that regularly, just as I'm sure they always were. As far as disinfecting other surfaces, just like anything else, you want to go through and catalog and pay attention to the surfaces that people are coming in contact with regularly. So your cleaning as you're preparing to turn over the unit may be a little bit different. You're going to focus on things like maybe the phone or the clock radio or the end tables or the tops of surfaces, or you're kind of going to want to look at anything that people are touching, doorknobs, light switches, anything like that.
I'm of course thinking, in the kitchen too, all the kitchen door handles and then the tops of those cabinets, because oftentimes we pull it open with the door handle and then grab either the top or the bottom of the cabinet to, move it out of our way the rest of the way, or even close it with that instead of touching the handle. So kind of those things that we do out of habit that maybe might be taken for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do have a short-term rental, you're going to have to think through what people do that maybe you don't. So, like if you tend to always use the handle of a cabinet, but other people maybe close it with the side of the door, you're going to have to kind of think through what other people might be touching.
Very good. We have many of our experts on the line today. We have Glenn and Matt, of course, but we also have Brad, and we have a few from the C3 group. So we have some HR experts in here and some other experts, and I would be happy to field, and I think they would be happy to field any questions that you may have regarding those issues. Glenn, I'm hearing a little bit about the PPP guidelines kind of, now it did reopen, and I think we talked about that.
Yep.
PPP reopened. But I also heard that 8-week time frame may be being extended a little bit. Have you heard that?
I have heard that's in the works. I don't know if anything is definitely solidified yet.
Okay.
Did go on the IRS website and did have some new updates to frequently asked questions, and it breaks it down now. Instead of just having like 5 or 6 general questions, it actually breaks it down like other issues, income deductions, if you took the payment protection program versus the CARES Act, why you can't take both, so on and so forth. So I was thinking possibly that we could get a link to that. If anyone has questions, we could put it on our site.
Yep. If you would,
Yeah,
if you would send me that link, I'll certainly upload that to the site. What
okay.
Did you find anything out there that you were like surprised by, or something that you feel you want to point out immediately today?
I think since Monday, nothing's really changed. I was big.
Okay.
We'll see in the near future what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest things was that they did open it up for more people. And what I'm hearing kind of across the board is some people are getting the terms of their loan and saying, maybe I'm not quite ready to have this loan, or maybe I don't want this loan. So then they're returning that money. Maybe they applied for the loan, they thought that they would be ready to use it, and they just realized their facility is not there yet, or their organization is not ready to use it. So they're returning that money. Are you hearing similar things?
I've heard that too. And then sometimes the terms will say they want it paid back within 2 years, but once again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen next year. If everyone's going to be up and fully running, how could you determine that you're going to be able to pay it back?
Right. And again, I think that goes back to some of the talks we had early on about PPP and EIDL, and really watching your cash flows after this, right? So we're all in this situation where right now we may not have any income, or we may have little income coming into our organizations. And we're taking out these loans with the expectation that we're all going to be going back to work soon, and we're all going to be making that money soon. And that may not be a switch, right, that we flip. That's going to be a slow progression of people learning to trust again, and wanting to get out into the public.
Yeah.
So again, you're all joining us today for what we call our Restart, Rebound, Rebuild series. And we are moving in next week is our final week of Restart. And on Monday, we're going to be talking marketing your restart. And on Wednesday, I'm working on a special guest, so stay tuned for that. And then on May 11th, we will start our rebound phase of our series. So we have some great ideas planned for that, including breaking out by sector. So we'll be looking at individual sectors, restaurants and retail, professional services, some personal services, so salons, chiropractors, things like that. We'll be looking at various sectors and the things they should be doing to rebound their business. We'll get sectors, our hope is to get certain sectors on a call on Monday together, so they can all kind of talk about what's happening in their industry. And then on Wednesdays, we will have general calls. So there'll be things like diversifying your revenue stream, and planning for cash flows, and rebounding your brand, we're not sure we're sticking with that title, but that was something we came up with yesterday. Again, we may all come out of this realizing that there are services that we need to be offering to our clients that we never offered before. So how do we brand those? How do we package them? And how do we get that message out? So those are the things that we're going to be looking at. If there is something that you feel we should be looking at that we haven't yet, and it's been weighing heavily on your mind as a business owner, we want to hear those things. If you're an employee and you've been on a few of our calls and you feel like, hey, they really haven't touched on this and I really need to know, shoot me an email, give us a call. This series, again, I've said it all along, this series is fluid. We're learning as we go with you. We are bringing in experts that you need to hear from based on questions that I'm receiving, questions that our experts are receiving. And we hope to continue to do that. We're going to be with you through this all the way. We hope, the chamber will be back up and running soon, but we're going to be with you every step of the way. And I think that's important for all of you to realize, is that we do have a great network of people here in our chamber, people who are willing to help, people who have not been through this before, but are going through this with you, and we're all in it together. So I want to thank all of my experts who have helped us along the way in our Restart series. And I want to say again, thank you all for being on these calls, because I think they've been very valuable. The feedback I'm hearing is that they have been valuable. But again, they can only be valuable if we know what questions you have and what experts you want to hear from. So continue to share those things with us, and I'm sure our experts will be more than happy to get on other calls as we move into the next phase. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share this morning before we hop off? I think we did a great job. We were concise this morning, and I feel it was a great way to kind of end the week. So is there anything else anyone wants to share? Okay.
Before we log off, I know you and I had talked. I don't know if I'm the only one in this group that has the PPP loan. I did send a nice spreadsheet to Gina this week that I did to keep very good track of it. I urge everybody, when you get these loans, to thoroughly read through your contract with whatever bank you have. It is a 42-page document, and it can be confusing. I highly advise someone, if you do not understand it, to ask those questions. There are things in here, for example, that says you automatically default if you are 1 day past due on paying any of your taxes, state or local or property, any of them. They have things in here about collateral, and then they take it back. So you really need to thoroughly read through and see if this is what you want to do for your company before you do that, especially if you don't have any collateral, such as we don't. Gina and I talked extensively the other day. We are fortunate enough in our county to have been in business for 25 years. We have no liens, no loans, no nothing. And it can be quite intimidating. So I do know we got ours, and I'm happy to share, from Community Bank, NA. And ours is out of the Beaumont branch. The Tunkhannock branch is amazing too. And they sat down and walked us through it. But the thing is, guys, these banks are getting notified every day. Yesterday, I got a phone call from the bank saying I needed more information. So it's changing for them rapidly as well. And we're fortunate enough that our loan is small enough that we could pay it back quickly. But if you have several employees, such as 9, 10, 11, that adds up quick. We are I don't know if you know who I am, but we own Peaceful Valley Equestrian Center out by Center Moreland. So we have 3 employees. So for us, it's very minimal. But for the bigger companies, such as like Hawk Insurance and Pump and Pantries and those kind of things, they've got multiple employees. So their PPP loans are going to be 4, 5, 6 times higher than ours. And you have to watch your interest rate too on these, because when I tell you, let me cover up my starting thing, and I have this for you, Gina, to send over today. It just took me a little while to X out all the spots where they put your bank account numbers and all your stuff. Yeah. This is my document 1 out of 3. And there's a huge thing about child support. If you have any employees that pay child support, and you have to sign off on that, there are 36 spots where you have to initial before you can even get to your loan. So I will send it over to Gina. I'm going through taking out all of our stuff, so she can maybe post it up somewhere so people have. I have to check with Community Bank and make sure it's okay that I do put their documents.
Yeah, I don't think we would post it, Dora. I wanted to have a copy of it more for reference if I get questions, which, you know, as you know, because you called me with yours, I do tend to get a lot of questions from people. So I wanted to have something that I could reference if someone was saying, I don't understand what X paragraph means. Not that I'm an expert by any means, but I can certainly, you know, help to reach out to those that are. I appreciate you sharing with us, Dora, your experience with the PPP, because I think for very small businesses, as you said, that's been their experience too, is they've received this loan document, and those that don't have loans or don't take them out regularly are looking at this loan document and reading through some of those pieces that are very intimidating, or can be very
They're extremely intimidating. And we've done loans before. We've had mortgages. Right. And I've worked for much bigger companies where I've had to read these things, so I understand them. However, it's a little intimidating, and you really have to read between the lines, and you have to think about it. It's not. And there's so many stipulations. It's 8 pages of stipulations for you to be able to get reimbursed at the end for it. And so it's very vague. That's the part that's a little scary. It's detailed in some instances and vague when it comes to the point that we as business owners care about how are we going to get it forgiven. So I highly suggest you reach out to people and ask those important questions, and don't just sign it. And don't just be okay with it.
Right.
And it's a lot different for us. We're agricultural, so we have different HR rules than, say, a shop in town would have.
Right.
So it's a lot different for us.
Right. Well, I thank you for that. And I think that before you all jumped on the call, we were talking a little bit how these rules are changing daily. And I think some of that vagueness in some of these documents may be that the policies have not been quite defined yet. So much of, you know, PPP and EIDL was kind of put out overnight by the legislation, and the policies around some of these programs are not clearly defined, or they're realizing that they need to change the policies because what they originally defined is needing to be different. So again, I thank you for sharing. I thank you all for being on the call with us this morning. And yep, go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on Richard's comments on the auto cleaning. I don't think there's going to be a better time to do it than right now. So there's only a couple carriers, I believe, that are doing it so far, and it's like a half an hour of labor to an hour of labor that they're reimbursing, and it's about 15 to 25 bucks for the supplies. What I would recommend is whatever carrier that is, before you do it, check in and see how they handle it, because I gotta believe they're going to handle it like a glass, like a crack fill. You don't have a deductible, and it's only 75 bucks, but then it sits on your policy for 3 years as a claim. So just something to be aware of.
Yeah. Thanks. And now, and having that on your policy as a claim may increase your insurance down the road, right? So,
sorry, I put myself. Yeah, I mean, it depends on frequency and things like that. If you got one, it's not going to affect you, but it's like anything else. You have one of those, and then you have a deer, and then you have an accident. I mean, they come into play for sure. They definitely matter.
Yep. Very good. Well, thank you, Tyler. And thank you all again for being on the call with us this morning. We are looking forward to Monday's call, again, marketing your restart. And then Wednesday, I am working on a special guest for us. And then Friday, we will follow up with marketing. And then on May 11th, as I said, we will start our rebound phase of our Restart, Rebound, Rebuild series. Thank you all and have a great weekend. Bye.